Toronto Liberal candidate apologizes for suggesting that people claim China's bounty on a Conservative MP. Just another example of the very concerning influence the CCP has over Canada. Let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Jonny Says So. We are just wrapping up the first week of what's already proving to be a very wild and strange election cycle here in Canada, and this story takes the cake. A Liberal MP, Paul Chiang, has actually called for the kidnapping and holding for ransom of a Conservative MP. You can't make this stuff up, guys. Now, this story broke by the Toronto Association for Democracy in China. China election interference in this year's federal election. China has once again stepped up on activities to interfere in the upcoming Canadian federal election. Liberal candidate Paul Chiang, seeking re-election at Markham Unionville, recently spoke openly about the Hong Kong $1 million bounty placed by Hong Kong police on Joe Tay, a Conservative candidate at Don Valley North. To everyone here, you can claim the $1 million bounty if you bring him to Toronto's Chinese consulate, Chiang reportedly told Ming Pao, a Chinese language media, during an ethnic media conference in January. How crazy is that, guys? You have a Liberal MP calling for the, not arrest, but kidnapping of a Canadian citizen and rival political party. The article goes on to say, "This is shocking. Mr. Chiang openly encouraged people to assist in China interference and transnational repression," said Che Kwan, co-chair of the Toronto Association for Democracy in China. "Rather than protecting Canadians, he betrayed them and jeopardized their safety." Last December, when Hong Kong police announced a bounty on Tay and other members of the Hong Kong diaspora around the world, Minister of Foreign Affairs Mélanie Joly warned that any attempt by Hong Kong authorities to conduct transnational repression abroad, including by issuing threats, intimidation, or coercion against Canadians or those in Canada, will not be tolerated. Now, that's all well and good to say, but what about when Canadian Liberal MPs do it? Let me know what you guys think in the comments, guys. Do you think there's going to be any real repercussions coming from the Liberal Party? Because so far, tonight at least, Mark Carney has not issued one single word about the situation. China has been mobilizing voters, especially those in ridings with a high concentration of Chinese Canadians, to vote for China-friendly candidates. It purportedly assisted in the campaign of Chiang to defeat a highly popular Conservative incumbent in the 2021 election. As well, incumbent MP Kenny Chiu of Stevenson Richmond East was defeated in the same election by an orchestrated disinformation campaign on WeChat, a Chinese social media. Chiu, originally from Hong Kong, has angered China by speaking out against that country's treatment of Uyghurs and introducing a private member's bill to establish the Foreign Interference Registry. Another Conservative candidate has been appointed by the party to run in this election. "This is just another example of China exerting undue influence in our election," said Gabriel Yu, a current affairs commentator. "Our political parties are being held hostage in the sense that they are afraid to run candidates not favored by China." Now, obviously, thanks to the work done by the Toronto Association for Democracy in China and the many independent journalists who have been covering this online, the mainstream media and Paul Chiang could not ignore the story any longer. This from CBC. GTA Liberal candidate apologizes for suggesting people claim China's bounty on a Conservative. Now, the article goes on to rehash exactly what I just read from the Toronto Association for Democracy in China, but this is Paul Chiang's statement that he put out on X. "The comments I made were deplorable and also a complete lapse of judgment on the seriousness of the matter. As a former police officer, I should have known better. I sincerely apologize and deeply regret my comments. I will always continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with the people of Hong Kong in their fight to safeguard their human rights and freedoms." Can you believe the nerve of these people talking about safeguarding their human rights and freedoms while simultaneously advocating for your political opposition to be dragged against their will to a foreign consulate to be deported overseas to face ridiculous charges by an authoritarian communist regime. It's absolutely unbelievable. And every accusation by these people is an admission wrapped in projection. It's absolutely crazy, guys. And Pierre Poilievre has responded to this on X. Liberal MP and candidate Paul Chiang's heinous call to turn over a Canadian citizen to the authoritarian regime in Beijing in return for a Chinese Communist Party bounty is no accident. It reflects the Liberals' long-standing mockery and neglect of national security for their own partisan gain. Despite expert warnings and a public inquiry, they downplay foreign interference that benefits the Liberal Party and endanger Canadians with their reckless attitude. Carney is weak and compromised by money his company owes to Beijing. His silence on these deplorable comments says it all. Carney must fire Paul Chiang as a candidate. The Carney Liberals can't be trusted to keep Canadians safe. They don't deserve a fourth term. Now he, of course, is talking about Mark Carney, Brookfield, and their ties to China. Juno News put this out on X. Mark Carney is asked if he's beholden to communist China amid news that Brookfield secured a $250 million loan from a Chinese state-owned bank shortly after he, as Brookfield executive, held a secret meeting with a top Chinese official.
The first question's about these issues that Mr. Poilievre raised yesterday. He's suggesting you're beholden to China. He talked about your regular visits to China. You went there at the time when Xi was trying to show the world that he's open for business. You went back in the fall. Then Brookfield secured a $276 million loan for some property there. I guess that was underwater. Was that a sweetheart loan? Are you beholden to China?
Absolutely not. First thing. Second thing I'll say, look, Mr. Poilievre doesn't understand the world. Mr. Poilievre is a lifelong politician. It's all he's ever done. These slogans, soundbites, slander, doesn't understand how the world works. China.
And all you've ever done, it seems, is make shady deals with communist regimes.
Happens to be our second largest trading partner. It's our second largest trading partner. We have trade disputes with China right now, caused by them in the agriculture sector. It's one of the areas which we need to engage on. It's one of the areas, when you think about...
Well, I'm glad he brought that up, because notice, guys, they haven't really been engaging with China about these tariffs, have they? I mean, all you've heard relentlessly for the last 2 months is elbows up, guys, and all this anti-American rhetoric. Where's the outrage from the Liberal Party and the media about the Chinese tariffs? You don't hear it because it doesn't exist.
Again, the auto sector and the future of the auto sector, we've got to understand where China is, where China is going, whether or not there's any room for partnership in that. Look, I'm beholden to absolutely no one except to the Canadian people. I am here for the Canadian people.
Now, this is just the latest in a long series of incidents that really highlight the CCP's scary amount of influence that they have in this country. Does anybody remember the secret Chinese police stations that were operating on Canadian soil that were threatening Chinese nationals?
A troubling new report from the RCMP tonight. It's investigating claims of criminal activity at so-called police stations allegedly set up by China's government.
The issue has ties to the GTA and beyond. Here's our Allison Hurst with the story.
3 Scarborough and Markham addresses are on a list of so-called police stations said to be organized by the Chinese government.
Under this kind of practice, China violated other countries' sovereignty.
A Spain-based non-governmental organization outlines at least 54 of them around the world, claiming there are also intimidation tactics being used.
The Chinese authorities use this kind of overseas service stations to try to get their targets, so-called suspects, to return to China.
The addresses are listed on a website registered in China in 2014. One of them in a business plaza, where inside empty teacups and garbage lay on the boardroom table. Another, a family home in Markham. And the third,
are you the owner?
a convenience store in Scarborough.
We're here because there are allegations that this address might be linked with a police force operating out of China. I'm sorry?
Yeah, I don't know.
In a statement, the RCMP says it is investigating reports of criminal activity in relation to the so-called police stations. And it goes on to say it takes threats to the security of individuals living in Canada very seriously and is aware that foreign states may seek to intimidate or harm communities or individuals within Canada. The Consulate General of China, meanwhile, does not deny opening, quote, service stations due to the pandemic. For services such as driver's license renewal, it is necessary to have eyesight, hearing, and physical examination. The main purpose of the service station abroad is to provide free assistance to overseas Chinese citizens in this regard.
Good afternoon.
On the heels of that report, a U.S. judge has unsealed an indictment accusing 7 Chinese nationals on behalf of the People's Republic of China of harassment, threats, surveillance, and intimidation to coerce a victim to return to China.
We also allege that the defendants threatened and harassed the victim's family members, both in the U.S. and in China.
The indictment says one of the suspects offered for PRC leadership working on the case to come meet the victim, John Doe 1, in Toronto, Canada.
And that's exactly what it is, guys. That part at the end there where they talk about threatening somebody's family back home, that's real. They essentially have spies on Canadian soil that let Chinese nationals know that you toe the party line, even as a Canadian citizen, or your family back home might get harmed. It's absolutely unreal that this kind of stuff goes on. Anyways, guys, that's my show for today. Now I want to turn it over to you guys in the comments. What do you think of all this? Is Canada completely compromised by the CCP? I'd love to know your thoughts. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe and share the videos if you like what you see. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.